new relief. There is a $5 million fund from which Americans could get much-needed $500 stimulus checks. Everybody, listen up. It's important now. This is happening in the state of Missouri, specifically in St. Louis, and the checks are directed at families with low income. The mayor, who was one of the most people affected by this crisis, said that the people in the city and state have already a plan to send cash to hundreds of families, if not thousands, who are going through a tough time. The bill was presented and is calling for the state to spend $5 million in funds that are coming from the federal crisis stimulus package. They are urging the federal government to agree on sending $500 monthly payments to local families for the next year and a half. This idea is for this program to begin as soon as possible, and its approval will go into 2024. Now, the program is not approved yet, but a green light would mean that eligible people will be with low income, who are either parents or guardians of children in public city schools, and it's a great chance for the city of St. Louis to offer support for working families and their children. The Nebraska governor has also made some school aid and tax cut plans to keep on rolling this week, as lawmakers give a strong thumbs up to a package of property tax changes worth more than $3 billion over the next 6 years. The bill introduced by the senator would increase Nebraska's 2 property tax credit program, cap school property tax growth, and eliminate almost all community college property tax. The package represents the second piece of Governor Pillen's plan to advance this bill. The first piece would cut the state's top income tax rate by 1/3 and make other income tax changes possible. The governor said the property tax package would provide substantial property tax relief for everyday Nebraskans. And last August in the state of Maine, a new law took effect aimed at giving relief to the homeowners who have watched inflation and demand drive up their property values and thus their taxes.
For a bad batch of water. The system then was, paused, distributing more water into the system in an effort to have a better chemistry or a better jar test of what they were producing. And so that meant that the residents were draining what was left at that point in the clear wells. This is happening, at a time where we have support with the state there, at the water treatment facility. We welcome their support with open arms because we believe that our residents are worthy.
There is a new monthly eligible benefit raise. Lawmakers have agreed to provide a boost to beneficiaries. This might be worth up to $200 of financial aid. But some Americans in several states may not be eligible to receive this stimulus check. Gas prices are down, inflation is dropping very high, and the cost of food is going up. The price of food in America, everybody, rose more in the past year than has at any time since 1979. Inflation has driven up supermarket bills so much that in some cases, it's more economical to dine in a restaurant than it is to shop and cook. Grocery store prices have increased more steeply because they're more directly impacted by rising food costs and supply chain issues. While the restaurants, the cost of ingredients is only a small part of the bill. Spending on food stamps has increased by $53 billion and 90% increase in the 2 crisis years. By comparison, that's how much the entire program cost in 2009 during the recession. Spending on the SNAP program grew from 88% for an estimated $60 billion in 2019 to $113 billion in 2021. Spending on the SNAP program had previously peaked at $80 billion in 2013 before declining for the next 6 years. And the average monthly benefit per person increased 68% from $130 per person to $217 per person. That's from 2019 to 2021. The federal program helps supplemental the food budget of people who qualify. Emergency orders are helping some states collect more federal help. In the state of Virginia, another round of crisis benefits will be released today. Officials have said that a one-time payment for summer of $391 per eligible student will be uploaded retroactively. The Delaware Division of Social Services will also issue emergency benefits for August to eligible households as part of the state's ongoing response to the crisis. In the state of Virginia, proposed by 3 House Democrats would send money every month to families when the national average for gas is more than $4 a gallon. Under the legislation proposed by Mike Thompson, John Larson, and Lauren Underwood, eligible families would receive $100 per month plus another $100 for each dependent. In the meantime, many states have enacted or are working on implementing a gas tax holiday to provide some relief from high gas prices this summer. As recently as mid-June, President Biden was still considering a federal gas tax holiday, a move which could save Americans 18 cents a gallon. This week, gas costs less in South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee than it did before. And since the enhanced child tax credit reverted to its original maximum of $2,000 per child, similar initiatives by the U.S. government have been stalled. In response, many states have begun to introduce their own child tax credit programs, varying in scope and available credit amount. The Pennsylvania state has now joined 12 other states providing relief through state legislated child tax credits and deductions. The governor, Tom Wolf, has recently signed off on the state's new $45 billion budget.
Truck industry has gone up. It is now at $76 billion. And the corporate lobbyists working on this bill, like pigs at the trough, are not yet finished. They want more and more and more. Their needs are insatiable. Mr. President, needless to say, I do not usually quote approvingly from the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. They are not my best friends, and in fact, I think I get attacked on that page more than any other member of the Congress.
Eligible citizens will receive $500 universal basic income payments for a year via direct deposit or through a prepaid debit card. The state of Maine has sent out more than 450,000 relief payments to date, with thousands of more set to hit mailboxes in the coming weeks. The $850 checks are approved early this year by the bipartisan majority in the legislature as part of the budget signed by Governor Mills. Will go to nearly 1 million Mainers. The state is processing about 200,000 checks a week, and most should receive the checks by the end of July. The $1.2 billion state budget approved in April set aside more than half the total amount to be sent back to Mainers. During recent calls for a suspension of the state gas tax, which Mills opposes, she has pointed to state relief checks as a way for Mainers to cover high gas and grocery costs. Delaware officials have also proposed $300 stimulus checks to help them offset the impact of inflation. The Delaware stimulus checks will go to residents who filed a 2020 tax return. The lawmakers in the state, House, and Senate said they have reached a consensus on a direct payment plan, and lawmakers will come up with the legislation, and the authorities would use the state's $1 billion surplus to send a Delaware stimulus check. The proposal is expected to be fast-tracked as it enjoys the support from both the Republicans and the Democrats. Bernie Sanders is now urging every one of his Democratic friends to support a brand new stimulus package. This bill would include expand monthly benefits for millions of people. $250 one-time relief checks would also be a deposit. And on the Senate floor this week, Bernie Sanders had harsh words for fellow members of Congress who have been crafting a bill to give major microchip companies a $52 billion in funding, while ignoring pressing issues that are faced by the middle and lower class in the United States. Sanders told his colleagues, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the American people are sick and tired of unprecedented level of corporate greed that we are seeing right now. Sanders pointed out that everyday Americans are facing soaring inflation